I'm quite a private person, and so I've always kept myself to myself, apart from when it
Yeah.
came to music. So the change in pace, especially socially, was quite terrifying, actually, especially having that much exposure that fast. But
Yeah.
I loved it. You know, it was something I'd waited and worked for with my parents for so long. When it
Yeah.
finally came, it was, I felt like I wasn't living it, like I was living someone else's life, or that maybe I was in a coma and it was just a dream. It was a very strange period of time. It was like consistent, not deja vu, but just feeling like you're in a fever dream.
The 947 Top 40 with Zweli.
You know I love it. Love it. Powered by CTM on 947.
So this Saturday, we are chatting to one of the breakout stars of 2023, Mae Stephens. She's already got a top 20 hit on the 947 Top 40 powered by CTM. She's also bagged her own UK top 20 hit as well with If We Ever Broke Up. And yeah, great single. Mae Stephens, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your music with us as well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pretty good day.
Yeah, it is. How's the weather, by the way? Because I was in London a couple of weeks ago, and you may not be in London now, but I know that it wasn't the summer that everyone is expecting. I was wearing jackets most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty cold recently, but today it's actually been really lovely, and the weather's kind of drifted over to my town. So we've got sun and it's warm. I'm happy.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it.
Thank
Now,
you.
I want to go back a couple of years back, before we had the music out, and here was Mae Stephens, and she's working at Asda, which I understand is a supermarket chain in the UK. Now, if you look at your day-to-day from then into how different your life is now, what are some of the really big changes that you've seen, over that time?
I mean, I was working the job, I hardly ever had enough money to pay my phone bill. I was kind of floating between trying to be an adult, but also trying to do my music. And I think the biggest things that have changed in my life so far are the fact that, I've got all of this, I've got all of these meetings, I get to meet new people. But I mean, recently in my life, I've got my first house, and I'm finally feeling the independence. I've just got 2 cats of my own. Like I'm loving my life, I'm very lucky to have this, and my entire life has pretty much flipped over in such a short space of time.
Yeah, it has flipped over in such a short space of time. And how interesting or difficult was that for you? Because I know in 2020 you started releasing some music, and now it's 3 years later and one single picks up, and I can imagine now it's like boom, so different.
It's a very strange feeling. I'm quite a private person, and so I've always kept myself to myself, apart from when it
Yeah,
came to music. So the change in pace, especially socially, was quite terrifying, actually, especially having that much exposure that fast. But
yeah,
I loved it. It was something I'd waited and worked for with my parents for so long. When it
yeah.
finally came, it was, I felt like I wasn't living it, like I was living someone else's life, or that maybe I was in a coma and it was just a dream. It was a very strange period of time. It was like consistent, not deja vu, but just feeling like you're in a fever dream.
I
Yeah.
get that.
Mm.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about, the perseverance you've got to have as an artist. I always say that I can't imagine how daunting it is to sometimes release music that may be so personal to you, to other people to now listen to. And what does it take in terms of that perseverance when you're recording music and, it's maybe not charting, maybe not as big as you would have liked it to be, until you have to wait for that one boom single that gets everyone to be all over you?
You have to learn to wear your heart on your sleeve consistently. I think, I mean, throughout my entire life, I've always been quite transparent, especially about the bullying I had at school and
Yeah.
all of this stuff. I think you have to wear your heart on your sleeve, and sadly, sometimes it does get turned away, and you just have to keep staying positive, staying passionate, making sure that it is definitely what you want to do, and you
Mm,
are so sure of it. Because I spent a long time questioning whether I really, really thought I could mentally do it, and finding
wow.
reassurance in myself is what really drove me to keep going, especially the support I had from my father and my parents. Like,
Yeah.
you need to be able to know yourself in order to push forward.
I love that answer. I love that answer. And it actually leads me into my next question, because I know that some of your inspirations, you've mentioned the likes of Lily Allen in the mid 2000s. I think it's Kate Nash. I used to love the Foundations, and you were relatively young at that stage. So how were you introduced, to those artists in the early to mid 2000s?
One of my favorite things as a kid was when the music channels came on, like all of the, where you'd see like all the music videos and you'd see the charts,
Yeah.
like that was my era of time. And I used to sit there, I wouldn't watch kids TV shows, I'd watch the music, the music shows, and I loved them, stuff like Kerrang as well. I was so intrigued with the music videos that I ended up catching on to the music, and Lily Allen was just on there consistently. And it's the same with Kate Nash. And I loved them both, but there were so many other artists that I fell in love with what they were doing, and the fact that they were able to turn their music into this wonderful world of whatever they wanted. And that's what really kind of set me on a really good path when I was younger. And I loved writing music.
And was that almost an escape for you as well? Because you had mentioned that, you went through some bullying when you're in school, which I think is the most horrid thing that could happen to anyone that's young. But the writing, the music, was that almost some sort of an escape as well, where you're in your own world?
It really was. I mean, I didn't have the best time at school, nobody, and to quote this, nobody likes the weird kids in, when I was growing up. And it was that sad period of time where I'd come home from school and I was just depressed. Like I felt so enclosed and so tightly kept, and it was like they'd been winding a toy all day, and I had to release it some way. And before music, it came out in anger. And I took on music as almost a form of therapy, and it helped me with my anger problems. It helped me with coping with the situation in a much healthier way. And I just grew a passion for it after, I used to spend 4 hours on my piano 5 days a week for like 4 years. And it became such a reliant therapy for me that I ended up finding a massive passion in creating music to help other people as well. And it just spiraled from there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was going to say that I think one thing that I also really appreciate about you and your artistry as well is that within your music, it is something that makes you feel good. There's so much meaning within the lyrics. There's always something that someone's going to be able to take away from it, which is what I think music is also about. Instead of just being entertaining, there's also the other very important side of it, which you clearly tap into and is very important.
I kind of believe that everyone has a soundtrack to their lives. Like, you don't watch a movie with the sound off. The music is always the most important part. And I found growing up throughout my life that every core memory I had a sound or had a song. And I fell so in love with that, and so in love with the theory of music being people's film, people's soundtrack. And it turned into my way of wanting to help people. And my friends would send me their breakup situations, and I'd go away, write something to help heal. And I was trying to spend time tailoring songs to people, because all I wanted to do really was help people. I'm not financially driven. I'm more driven for fans and to help people with that.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to go to the music now. I mean, here we are, it's 2020, they shut everything down, the pandemic is here, everyone's like, oh my gosh, what is it that's going to, happen? Now you released a couple of singles, I Want You to Be at Devil's Eyes, Infamous Kiss, and now, most recently in 2023, If We Ever Broke Up. Now, I know there's a TikTok of you, and you're at a supermarket, and If We Ever Broke Up is, the song that's being used on there. As an artist, do you have any sort of inkling that this might just be the one? Or is it just you trust the process until it comes?
I have a little bit of a tradition. I'm sure I've talked a lot about my father and how he has been a massive influence on my life, and he's the one that supported me through all of this. But there is one thing I have always done, and if I create a song and I get a demo that I think is pretty good, the first person I have listened to it is my dad. And my dad can't hide his emotions. He's very strong with his emotions. And he pulls this smile. And if he pulls this smile and I've played him a song and he gives me this look, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's the one.
Yeah.
And that's like the reason why we went, okay, screw it, let's put it on TikTok. And it was because of his judgment that I'm here, and also his hard work. And we worked together on it, and we both made the decision that was a good song to go forward with. He's got an
Yeah.
instinct for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is off topic, but shout out to your dad. Please send him all of our love for always being there for you. You know what I mean? Shout out to your perseverance as well. You know, a lot of work goes into it, a lot of self-work as well when there's so much that you're dealing with, and to turn it into something so positive is just, it's lovely. It's amazing. And now you have got a collaboration with one of the international hit makers, Meghan Trainor, who has got number ones, and she seems like an artist that you absolutely love. How did Mr. Right come about?
God, it's a bit of a strange story. I mean, I wrote the song in LA. I wrote the song with Naked and another guy called Jake Torrey, and we kind of wanted to take the mick out of something that felt so routine and so like it was almost normalized where it shouldn't be normalized, you know, and those awkward dates and those weird moments that you kind of brush over. And so we wrote the song, we loved it, we finished it, you know, one day. And I took the demo home, I sat on it for a little bit, and then we went, okay, let's put it on TikTok. Like, we're going to trial and error this like we did If We Ever Broke Up.
Yeah.
And a couple of posts later, Meghan comments on the TikTok, I have a mental breakdown. My boyfriend has a mental breakdown. My family has a mental breakdown. And it was, I don't know, it just flashed for me to having a FaceTime call with her. We'd sorted all this stuff out. It just flashed forward of having a FaceTime call with her. She's showing me her kids. She's showing me the Spy Kids uniforms on her kitchen. And we had this amazing talk. And I just, you know, when you connect with someone so quickly,
yeah,
I just felt like she was my music mum. And we got talking, and I realized she went through exactly what I'm going through now. And so I've kind of turned to her for a little bit of guidance, but she is the most amazing human being, so humble. And the day I heard her verse and she sent me the demo, I think I cried about 7 or 8 times and listened to it a good 50. Like it was a massive dream. I still can't believe it's happened, and I still can't believe this is my life, but
it's your life, it's happening, and it's all happening because you deserve it. You know what I mean? Can't take anything away from that whatsoever. And I know I don't want to go too far ahead, you know, after Mr. Right, but you're allowed to let us in on any sort of plans you may have for either the rest of the year heading into the beginning of 2024.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we're prepping the next single. We're going to do a really cool campaign. Like, hopefully we change it up a little bit next year. We want to keep things interesting, but we also want to create a way to get the fans 10 times more involved in what I do. And we want to make some kind of inclusive sites and merch, and it's about the fans this year, and especially about what the fans want. And you know, I'm fan driven, and so that's it. Next single, merch lines, it's going to be a good year. I will not stop, and I'm very excited for it.
We're very excited for you, and we know that you're not going to stop whatsoever. Thank you so much again for the music and keeping it coming. And I've been looking at the back over there and all the different cute backpacks you've got. They're so eclectic and cool. Is that something you collect?
It's a brand called Loungefly. I collect Loungefly bags, specifically Hello Kitty ones. And I have an entire wall of them across my office.
Well, it's a thumbs up from me. I like it. I really, really like it. Oh man, Mae Stephens, thank you so much for making the time to chat to us. And I personally, and I know everyone at 947, we cannot wait to see how you continue to rise and rise. And you're pretty sure we will be hearing your music on the top 40 again within the next couple of weeks. So yeah, thank you.
Ever have me back, I'd be more than lovely to talk again. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
The 947 Top 40 with Zweli.
You know I love it. Powered by CTM on 947.